Welcome to Envision Broadcasting, the station designed to encourage, equip, and empower you for growth and success presents The Momentum Shift. A show where we get inspired, we get moving, and we get results. Every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern with your host, Eric Collier. He's the mayor of motivation and mental quicksand expert, bringing you inspiring interviews and empowering stories that will help to improve lives. If you're ready to start making the impossible possible, then you've joined the right show, because the momentum shift is what you've been looking for.
And yeah, dude, that was a moment of realization that I got that title, that job that all of my friends were seeking. They all wanted the six-figure salary. They all wanted the flexibility, all those things. And I got there, and then I was able to almost like sit in that room and future pace a version of myself with these men in the room. They're all out of shape. They're all talking about other girls. Like, that was something that really stood out to me, is they were talking about like hooking up with other women, and all these guys were married. And I remember just thinking, like, what's the character in this? Like, what is this, where I'm headed?
Are you ready to experience unparalleled comfort and warmth like never before? Introducing Sensory Product Design's flagship line of cozy blankets, the ultimate solution for warming your extremities and wrapping yourself in a whole body hug of coziness. Sensory Product Design's adult-sized cozy throzies and child-sized cozy cozies blankets are crafted from the highest quality microfiber fleece, ensuring unmatched warmth and comfort. But what sets Cozy Z's apart is its unique ability to settle your nervous system, providing a soothing sensation similar to an adult swaddle. Whether you're unwinding after a long day at work or trying to calm down your hyperactive child, Cozy Z's blankets work wonders in helping you find peace and tranquility. As proud sponsors of the Momentum Shift podcast and radio show, we invite you to visit CozyZ.com. That's CozyZZ.com now, and use the discount code Momentum25 to enjoy a fantastic 25% off your purchase today. Experience the magic of Cozy Z's blankets from Sensory Product Design and transform your moments of stress into moments of bliss. Don't wait. Embrace the warmth and comfort of Cozy Z's today. Hello and welcome to the Momentum Shift, the show designed to get you inspired, get you moving so you can get results. Why? Because I want you to tap into that untapped potential that you have inside of you, that seed of greatness, so that you can start creating momentum shifts that lead you to living in the life that you once believed would be impossible. Hello, I'm Eric Collier, the mayor of motivation and your host for the Momentum Shift podcast and radio show. And like always, we got a great show for you today. And I'm always excited about my guests. I'm looking forward to this one simply because I can relate to some of what he's talking about. And when he talk about momentum shifting, this man has come a long way to creating it, from being stuck, trying to figure things out, to now he's a great dad, and he's an owner of a $27 million business. And so I want to have him on, and I want to introduce you to Jordan. And I apologize if I messed your name up.
Duggar? I do not take any offense.
Jordan Duggar?
I was going to just say, go ahead and try it. It's Duggar, but I go
by Duggar man. Too. I said it's too easy. It can't be Duggar.
I know. That's how people usually say it. They're like, it must be Duggar. Like more sophisticated than that. No, I appreciate you having me, man. This is going to be fun.
Hey, so yeah, man, Jordan, I'm excited about having you on here, man. Well, first of all, I got to ask the question, man. I know you're an Ohio State fan.
Yep.
I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan. I hope you're not upset.
No, I'm not upset, man. You guys got a hell of a team, but it's been fun seeing the Dogs and the Buckeyes battle over the last few years.
Yeah, man. I think it's going to get even better next year, man.
Yep.
But to thank you for coming on the show, man, accepting my invite, because you got a lot going on. And I tell you, man, I love what you're doing. I've listened to your podcast a little bit, as well as checked out your website and read up on you. And man, there's some things that I'm really excited about talking about. I love what you're doing when you're talking about changing people's lives, but there's a mindset, that has shifted your life. So first question I always ask my guests is simply this: what's momentum shifting mean to you, and how has it changed your life?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I'll share that in a second, but are you live in Georgia, I assume?
Nah, man, I'm actually in the DC area.
Right on.
I grew up in Illinois. That's a funny thing.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, you picked a good football team, right? You had to branch out.
Yeah.
Anyways, man, momentum shift for me, I think it has everything to do with, well, I'll kind of tell you a story. I think we all have these moments of impact, these moments of momentum shifts, and you and I kind of chatted about that before the show, that you're almost faced with a choice, a dilemma, left or right, split in the road. And sometimes we take the wrong direction and we keep feeding back into negative momentum. But at a certain point, you end up realizing that the pain that you're going through ends up being so strenuous that you're eventually like, I might as well try to see what the hard way is to change. It's like, I might as well take the other road. And I bet you've had a few of those in your life. Man, I'll tell you my biggest one. And it seems on the surface not significant, but when I was coming out of being addicted to drugs, and my biggest thing was opiates. I'd grown up in a kind of a troubled family. My parents were always fighting. They got divorced when I was 13. I had like a multitude of stepdads. Most of my stepdads were drug addicts. And I just grew up in that environment. In fact, I had like 6 broken arms when I was a kid.
Okay.
And the theory is like when you're abused heavily as a kid, your bones end up weakening a little bit. And so like, dude, I could like literally, I broke my arm one time just walking through CVS and slipped.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Like, and so I always had broken arms growing up. So I would get prescribed painkillers. And it was funny. I still remember early in my life when I was like 12, 13, got a script of Vicodin. This was back when doctors would just give anybody painkillers.
Right.
And they gave me a script of Vicodin, and I remember taking one or whatever. And then the next day they were all gone. And my dad was like, yeah, I got rid of those for you. I'm like, okay, well, I guess these things must be awesome if my dad is stealing them from me.
Right.
Just planted seeds. And I ended up getting to a point where I got injured after graduating college, tore my Liz Frank ligament wakeboarding. It's like a really rare injury, 1 in 500,000 a year, orthopedic injuries, and ended up having all these surgeries on my feet. They ended up prescribing me, way over prescribing opioids. This was back in like 2011 when things were still kind of crazy. Anyways, long story short, reached a breaking point, was able to go cold turkey, really, because that was when the FDA came in and essentially caused pharmacies to have to start reporting differently. And so my guy kind of cut me off.
Right.
So therefore I had a split decision to make. I was like, do I go to heroin? Do I just keep going down this road, or do I just lay in my apartment for the next 4 days in misery and figure this out from there? That was the first moment of impact, man. The second was when I competed in bodybuilding. And the reason for that was that
story is awesome, man.
That's really what built momentum. And the reason that built momentum is because doing something like that forced me to focus on me. I didn't focus, like I was lost. I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was broke. I was miserable. But I think too many people ask, what should I do, instead of who do I need to become? And I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the question that I was asking at the time. I'm just like, well, I love fitness. I want to bodybuild. But it forced me to realize that change happens when you focus on who it is you need to become, not what you need to do. Many things ended up occurring after that, but that's the precedence of it.
Yeah. And I think that's big, man. That's the mindset you have to take on, right? Because you're trying to do something you've never done. You got to take on a mindset you've never had. And otherwise it's not going to happen. And I think you're right. So many times I knew what I wanted to do, but I got so caught up in the things that I needed to do to make it happen that eventually it just kind of what I say, I would get caught in mental quicksand. And I've heard you talk about that. Matter of fact, your episode, the very first episode I listened to, 511, where you talk about the mindset of entrepreneurs and the challenges that you still face as you growing your business. So you think somebody would look at you and go, man, he's growing this big business, this $1 million business. He doesn't have any issues, any problems, but you talked about some of those things, man. So can you share a little bit of some of the other challenges you faced that you talked about in that episode?
Yeah, man. So I have this theory that the most productive people, the most effective entrepreneurs, if they're addicts at some point, they make some of the best, because dude, addicts are ruthless. They're relentless. Like a drunk man, he'll do whatever he can do to get that last drink. Something like when I was hooked on pain pills, dude, there wasn't no not getting them. I found ways to get them. I remember one time I drove to Kentucky at 3 a.m. to pick them up from a guy I met on the internet. Like, I'll find a way.
Right.
And so if eventually you can translate that into business, it creates a hell of a feedback loop. But the problem is, what I have found is, as an addict, you're looking for the payoff. You're looking for the dopamine hit. You're looking for the exciting thrill. Business can't provide that, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you end up placing your sense of fulfillment, happiness, even on a day-to-day basis, based on a conditional effect of, if this business does what I want it to do, I'll therefore be happy. And that's how I've kind of acted over the last few years. And I still find myself in those cycles.
Yeah.
It's similar. You said you're married, right? Married 20 something years?
Actually, we're married 33.
Man, that is so incredible.
Yeah,
so incredible.
Just went over 33. Yeah,
well,
married, 3 kids, 6 grandkids.
Man, that's so cool. I'll finish what I was going to say, but like, what's the number one thing you got for staying married that long?
What's the number one thing I got?
For staying married that long?
Oh man, my wife, man, it's building that relationship. It's been a challenge, but man, the payoff has been great. And you look
Yeah,
at the family environment that's been created because of how I grew up and knowing that I didn't want it to be that way and
yeah,
her the same way. And so now we're seeing our grandkids and we're getting a chance to just change things, man. So that's the
that's
biggest thing.
beautiful. That's beautiful. I'll tell you a quick side story. When I proposed to Erin, we were in Cabo. This was like 5 years ago now, and beautiful setting. You know, we're out in this beautiful dock overlooking the ocean, the Pacific. And I proposed to her. Fortunately, she says yes.
Yeah.
And this man walks up to me. He's in his 80s, and he taps me on the shoulder and he goes, "Hey, son, do you see that woman over there?" And I look over, and there's his wife. He goes, "Well, we've been married. I think he said 60 something year, 50 something
Wow.
years." And he's like, "You want to know the number one secret to staying married and happy?" I said, "Hell yeah, of
Yeah.
course." And he says, "In marriage, you can either be right or you can be happy.
There we go.
You only get to choose one." I was
Yeah.
like, "Man, that's the
Yeah.
best piece of advice I've ever heard." Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
man, that's been the biggest thing I've learned, and I stopped arguing to be right. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Here's what I feel about it. This is what's going down. That's what I think we need to do. After that, I'm good. I don't have
Yeah,
anything else
man.
to say.
There's three truths, like yours, hers, and and then like the actual truth is somewhere in the middle, right? It's like,
Yeah, yeah. And
but
I think
anyways,
that's
man, like,
cool. But go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead. I was
Yeah,
gonna
I
just
think
finish
that's
listening.
great, man. When I sat there and I was looking at your podcast and reading up on you, man. You and your wife working together. The
Yeah.
first thing I started thinking about was when I was trying to teach my wife how to play golf. That didn't work out well, but you guys seem to have it going well, man.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a funny story around that you'll appreciate. But anyways, like the business thing is if you place your happiness on a condition, something that's external to you, right?
Yeah,
The business doing what you want. That's where
yeah,
it's a big problem, man, because in business, you can attest to this, it rarely goes the way you want. It's
right,
like you never truly solve problems in business. You just replace one problem with the next bigger one. And
right.
so I would catch myself, oh, we have these high revenue months, we hit
Yeah,
600 collected, we hit 800, we do 1 million collected cash. And I'm like, I'm
yeah,
the fucking man. And
yeah,
then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go buy a G-Wagon and I'm going to go do this and go do that. And then like revenue dips and my expenses are 500 and I just lost money. It's like,
yeah,
oh, reality check, reality check.
yeah, yeah,
And so I asked the marriage thing, man, because I think it's a great analogy or there's a lot of similarities. In marriage, you can't there's unconditional and conditional love, right? Like you
yeah.
can't just love your partner if they do what you want, if they treat you how you want, if they act how you want. That's
Right,
never going to work. But if you love
right.
them unconditionally, you'll have a fulfilled marriage. I think the same applies when you're building a business. You've got
Yeah,
to just love the game of business unconditionally.
yeah. I like that, man. And I was reading, man, you've always been a hustler.
Yeah.
You got the sales background, man. You had the car dealership you created. You had the big sales job before you were laid off right out of college, right? And
Yeah.
so talk to me a little bit about what drives that hustle, man.
Yeah, dude. Here's what I think it is. I heard this CIA operative one time talking about dossiers, and essentially it's like creating profiles on people that they're trying to get intelligence on, right?
Yeah,
And so in his role, he studied human behavior pretty extensively. Well, the whole CIA department did,
yeah,
and they started to find these commonalities with highly driven, like you said, hustlers, people who are kind of never satisfied. And one thing that stood out to me that was really unique is it occurs in childhood. A lot of our conditioning, it's pretty closely cemented when we're kids.
yeah.
And he talked about the periods between like 2 and 10 years old. And if you had a parent, typically a father who didn't really give you a lot of acknowledgement,
Okay.
okay, so you always were trying to get his approval. But then the kicker was like a mom, because as a young kid, you really need mom's love.
Yeah,
If she gave you love based on how productive you were or how organized you were or how like, oh, Jordan, she's been at work all day. She'd work multiple jobs and she'd get home at 9 p.m. Jordan cleaned the house. He cooked the
yeah.
food. He put himself to bed. I would get so much love and attention through that.
Right.
And so it just kind of creates this conditioning. I know for me, I'm seeking love and attention, and I seek love and attention through being productive.
Yeah.
And that raises the question as to like whether that's good or bad. And who knows, like either way. But no,
Right.
now I start thinking about as a kid, I'm like, how do I just like neglect him just enough,
Yeah, yeah.
with my kid? But yeah, dude, I think that's where it comes from subconsciously, but consciously, dude, you know, I just know that I'm happiest when I'm working really freaking hard. Like when
Yeah,
and it's not just working hard on the things that you're trying to create, it's working hard on yourself, dude.
yeah,
Like if I ever catch myself in a lull, I'm like, all right, what time did you wake up this morning? Yeah, you didn't do your morning movement. You didn't do the
right.
things, the checklist, the things. If you do the things first and you do the checklist,
Yeah.
then life becomes pretty fun. And then other things start to happen, man. So that's,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, because you get to knock your stuff out right off the bat, uninterrupted.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude, it starts with physical, you know, it
Yeah.
does. It starts with physical. Like, dude, I think all of man's problems can be solved if he just woke up in the morning, went outside, dug a 5-foot hole, wheelbarrowed it to the other side of the road,
Yeah.
and then got up the next day and brought that dirt back and put it in a hole. Like, you're not gonna have time to be sad. Like,
Yeah. Because you got to keep your mind going, man. You got to keep your mind focused on something. And I think that's been the biggest part of eye-opening experience for me. When I didn't have anything going on, I wasn't learning. I was spending a lot of time watching television and everybody else living their dream and getting my beer in, hanging out.
Yep.
My mind was just all over the place. I'll give you a scenario or give you an example. When I decided I was going to start working out, and I
Yep.
went out and I did the Insanity program in 60
Oh, I did
days.
that back in the day too. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Oh man, I
legit.
about fell through the TV the first day. But anyway,
Yep.
but I did that for 60 days. And after 60 days, I'm like, oh yeah, all right, cool. And I was done. I didn't do anything. I took some time off and I'm like, this is not it. And I go start back over again, right? Because I
Yeah.
gained the weight back. And
Yeah.
then I realized, dude, you got to stay in the process. If you stay in the process, you're happy, just like you said.
Yeah, you were probably, I bet you were super content. I bet your wife, like, you probably showed up in a whole different way during that period, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Confidence building, right?
We think there's some kind of a carrot at the end of those 70 days.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I did it. And then, like, with fitness and with everything, you don't get anywhere. You just keep doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And dude, I think, like, I'll tell you a really interesting anecdote that I heard recently. I think men need purpose more than anything else, you know,
Yeah.
like, just need some sense of purpose. And that purpose, I think a lot of times we align it towards external things we see other people doing. And the reality is, if you just have a sense of purpose, that means, like, being useful. Men just
Yeah.
need to be useful. So
Yeah.
he was talking about how in World War I in Germany, there was this really famous psych hospital that had some really, really high density population of men who were psychotic, right? Almost like not even almost, but disabled, not functional.
Gotcha.
And so when the war broke out and it made its way to Germany, they were really short on ambulance drivers. And so they couldn't find anybody to drive these ambulances. So they go to the psych ward and they're like, hey guys, like, we really need someone to drive these ambulances. And a lot of the men in the psych ward stepped up to do it. And then after the war, all of those dudes were cool.
Yeah.
They were fine.
They had a mission.
They had a mission.
Yeah.
You know, and you being in the military, it's like, I'd love to know your perspective on that, man. Do you feel like your purpose was really high in the military and then that shifted when you got out?
Man, it was, man. Especially when we went out to sea, we're sitting in the Persian Gulf. Yeah, you dialed in,
Mhm.
but the biggest struggle for me though was the family part of it, right?
Yeah.
Having a wife and 3 kids at home is like, ugh, I can't wait to get up out of here,
Can imagine.
I loved it, but every aspect of my life, and I look at your resume, and every aspect of your life shaped your next steps.
Yep.
Right? You couldn't be a great salesman or a great coach or a great teacher if you hadn't experienced that level of training and the opportunity that you had to manage those groups, to lead those sales teams, have that car selling business, being a leader on your varsity and basketball and football teams, right? You couldn't be where you are. So I'm so grateful for those experiences, man, because it really shaped my life and it gave me that meaning, that purpose, right? I'm out here taking care of what I need to take care of for my family, setting us up for the future. That was the mindset. So
Yeah.
right, man, having that sense of purpose. Talk to me a little bit, man. So we're talking about momentum shifting, man. You come out of college and you got the big salary. Talk to me about what I like was you said you were sitting in the boardroom, and this is an article I read off of you. You say you're sitting in the boardroom and you're looking around at the leaders in the room, the executives in the room, and instead of competing with them, you're like, I don't want to be here.
Mhm.
How did that set you up? Because I'll let you go from there, man. What triggered that?
Man, you've done a lot of research. I forgot about that. That's an old article. Yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about. The Daily Mail, I think.
Yeah.
Funny story about that though. They, like, interviewed me and wrote that article and then totally lied. Like, I wasn't making nearly that much money at the time, like I am now, but they just, like, totally, like, fabricated it. And I was just like, well, whatever.
They were
But
setting
anyway,
you up.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, dude, that was actually my first job out of college. Was not the greatest job. I think I was making 30K a year.
Okay.
Yeah, cleaning kitchen equipment. But I ended up getting that job soon after that. And yeah, dude, that was a moment of realization that I got that title, that job that all of my friends were seeking. They all wanted the six-figure salary. They all wanted the flexibility, all those things. And I got there, and then I was able to almost like sit in that room and future pace a version of myself with these men in the room. They're all out of shape. They're all talking about other girls. Like that was something that really stood out to me is they were talking about like hooking up with other women. And all these guys were married. And I remember just thinking like, what's the character in this? Like, what is this where I'm headed? Like they were just kind of douches. And then after that, they all went out and just got like hammer drunk. And you could tell that they were just trying to escape their reality the entire time.
Yeah.
And then that made me realize I need to escape this reality. But I think the key was, and you mentioned this, Eric, you said everything you're doing is setting you up for the next thing. I also stopped and paused and I'm like, I'm not gonna be in a hurry. You know why? Because I know I'm not gonna be here forever, but I'm learning how to sell. I'm learning how to manage a sales team. I'm learning how to do these things that I'll be able to use these skills in the future. See, I think a lot of like younger people, and I was guilty of this too. You might be working a job that sucks. You might be doing something that's dead end. But instead of just embracing it and giving it your full effort, you're thinking about the next thing. So therefore, you never actually grasp and acquire the skills and the knowledge for that next thing. Because, dude, if you're working in a job that you're learning anything, even if it's not how to manage, even if it's not how to run a business, you're getting paid to learn. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It's being able to soak it in, soak up that moment, man. Because like you said, you're learning how not to be a leader, right? You're learning how not to motivate your people.
Yeah. People complain about their boss. Like, what if you instead you just took notes like, okay, I'm not going to do that in the future. Not going to do that. Like,
right. Yeah. That's not the type of husband I want to be, And my mom always said, she said, Eric, if you hang out with 9 broke people, I can guarantee you who number 10 is going to be. So you hanging around in that area, right? Or that room, that environment, you could have been number 10, right?
100%. Yeah. 100%.
But so what I like, man, I like that focus, man. You have this level of focus and intensity about you. They showed all the pictures, man. You're jacked. You look great, man, when you're ready to compete and everything. So I like how you turned your focus in and you dialed it in on something you really love to do. And then you've used that to really elevate your life to another level. Talk to me a little bit about how preparing for bodybuilding competition changed your life.
Yeah. So, thinking back, I started bodybuilding really out of desperation for some sense of purpose. I was like, I need to do something to push myself.
Yeah.
Got kind of sucked into it, and then, man, after a few, like a month going through the process, I was like, man, this is all, I've never been more dialed in. I stopped drinking, stopped going out, stopped doing all of these things. And you start to feel that like that transformation occurring and you start to build that momentum. Well, I think what happened was I was so focused on myself, on my own processes, is that I started listening to more podcasts. I started reading more. I started contemplating. I started getting to better. I started doing all the little things that, in my opinion, manifested everything that I have now. I think if it wasn't for that, I never would have been process oriented enough to then create the second, third order consequences. So for example, when I was going through the bodybuilding comp, that's how I met my wife. My wife was a gym owner in our community. She'd been a long time bodybuilder herself. And just through those networks and circles, we ended up getting introduced, right? Yeah. Through that, we ended up creating this business. And, people talk about manifestation and they're like, well, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, manifestation is a function of you doing, the process is doing things today and having focus, not on like necessarily what specifically it is that it's going to occur, but you know that you want more. You're in an expansion mode. And see, a lot of people, they try to manifest when they're in contraction mode, when they're sad, when they don't have purpose, they're not disciplined. But dude, if you have discipline, focus, and you're in an expansion mode, you will meet that next thing. Yeah. And that's what I learned through that,
Yeah, I like it, man. Because let's look at it. An opportunity is only an opportunity if you prepared. And you've been in that work mode. You're focused on the process, and you're doing things that put you in position to meet people, right? Because it's all about connection. Connection builds a lot of things. And you would have never been ready had you not been in the process. If you'd have been sitting at on your couch, hanging out, right? You'd have never met. Your wife's name is Erin, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you'd have never met Erin. Right.
Yeah, man. And that's what just like drives me nuts. It drives me nuts that people are like in a bad place and they're like, what do I do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? It's like, no, man, like, who do you need to be?
Yeah.
Who do you need to be?
Yeah.
And like, if you focus on who you need to be, then the what will become more clear.
Yeah. Because you've created this person you are, right?
Yeah, man, I would say so. You know, like
Yeah.
I grew up pretty timid, shy, you know, self-conscious, like most kids, right? Like
Yeah.
we all have our own insecurities. And dude, I'm not naturally extroverted. I'm not naturally confident. You
Yeah.
know, I had to kind of create that. I heard a really cool story that comes from uh the Stoics. So I don't know if you've ever read like much of like you know, Stoic philosophy or anything like this, but there was this famous Stoic guy, you know, back in like the Greek era.
Yeah.
And I can't remember his name, Arpethesis or something like this. But anyways, his dad was a famous orator, like really famous guy in Greece, and his dad was murdered and essentially left him this large fortune.
Yeah.
And so, as soon as he received this fortune, his caretakers at the time stole it from him. And so, when they stole it from him, he was like basically, in poverty. And
Yeah.
so he made it his mission to like go become an attorney in order to get that money back. But the problem was he had this terrible stutter.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's like, how do I become an attorney when I can barely speak?
Right.
So what he did was he started putting rocks in his mouth and running up hills every day and reciting his legal jargon. You know, and
Okay.
he would do that. He did that for like 2 years, and he got rid of his stutter because he's like, if I can learn to talk with rocks in my mouth, I can
Right.
learn to speak. He went on
Right.
to be one of the most prolific orators of all time in ancient Greece.
Okay.
And I definitely believe that people who do have a deficit and learn to overcome it are
Yeah.
way better off than those who are inclined towards something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right, man. If there's something you really want, you'll do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Some
Yeah.
people, you know, you just kind of show up and they get A's. I know in
Yeah.
high school, and like, dude, those are the guys that are losers these days.
Exactly. Everything is, and you didn't have anything given to you. I didn't have anything given to me. I had to get out there and work, man. And I
Yeah.
think it's interesting how you see people walk in and they're complaining, they're whining and crying because things aren't going their way, and they don't realize it that the things that they're telling themselves are the reason they're being stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. You reinforce your own reality, man. You
Yeah.
definitely do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people, like, their thoughts, their internal dialogue is so negative
Yeah.
that they just can't break the cycle. You know, they just can't snap it out because
Right.
they're not willing to take action. Like a lot of times we end up creating way worse scenarios in our heads than what
Yeah.
actually is in reality, right? Like fear is a mile wide typically and an inch deep. You know,
Yeah.
it's like we look at it as this big daunting thing, but as soon as we step into it, we're like, that wasn't that bad at all.
Yeah.
The fear that you create just like keeps you saddled.
Yeah. So the day you went and you stepped on stage, did you have a lot of stuff going on in your mind that was kind of getting you to say, you know what, I'm not going to do this. It's not the right time.
Yeah, I didn't like competing, the actual act of it, like getting on
Yeah.
stage all oiled up, you know, and
Yeah.
in a banana hammock. It just like wasn't a ton of fun necessarily.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
remember like I was competitive though. I really wanted to win. And I can remember the very first competition I did. So I've competed 3 different times. When Erin and I had met, I was doing like my first competition, got on stage, you know, did the whole thing, got third. Man,
Yeah.
I remember how devastated I was and just what an asshole I was after the show. Everybody wanted
Yeah.
to celebrate and hang out, and I'm just pissed. And I remember looking back, just thinking like how silly that is, you know,
Yeah.
because these are judges basing it's all opinion based, you know. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I was leaner than that guy, but he had better delts and this and that. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
but that eventually taught me the lesson. Then when I competed the 2 times after that, like I honestly didn't give a crap if I won or not. And then
Yeah.
funny enough, I ended up getting first in my class, like most of those shows, you know.
Like you said, you're not focused on the winning, you're focused on the process that it took, right? The focusing on the poses and eating right and everything else. So if you get focused on the process, that's how you change the game, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to just learn to get obsessed a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Like I think obsession is a word that people frown upon.
Yeah.
But man, I just think if you can learn to be obsessed, then you do that for a while, then the challenge becomes balancing out of that a little bit because it
Right.
becomes addicting.
Yeah.
But I think you almost have to go through a period of obsession to then learn how to almost calibrate back a little bit, you know?
Yeah. I'm totally agree. I'm in agreement with you. You got to be obsessed with something because it's going to drive you to do things that it's going to challenge you to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know, one of the
Man,
things
if
I
you're-
like, man, being a family man, I like what you say when you say, you know what, it's about me, but it's not about me. You know, you're doing it for your family, man. So I love that. Talk to me about what it's meant to you as a man, as a husband, and a father to become those things
Yeah, it was funny,
or
man.
to
I'd be
take on
curious to
those
know.
responsibilities.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know your experience through having children. And we have the one son. He's amazing. He's about a year and a half now.
Because I'm somebody who believes that the largest gap an individual will face is the gap that stands between where they are now and what they could become. So the question becomes, are you willing to climb? The greatest trick the mind will ever pull is convincing you that your greatness does not exist. Mama used to say, she said, Eric, what you do in the dark will come out in the light. And she means that you reap what you sow. You get what you put in. And so you got to put the work in. Why? Because you're going to step your game up and tap into that untapped potential of yours and become the greatest person that you can possibly become.
I woke up, I was about to lose everything. And so my wife was about to leave me, and that meant my 3 children were going to be gone, which really hurt me because I would fall short on the promise to my kids, where I told them that I was their father. Nobody would ever be in their house taking care of them. Nobody would be responsible for them. They never had to worry about calling anybody daddy but me. Momentum shift. When you get stuck, you got to find a way to get going. And that is all about elevating your performance. You have to realize that high-level results are not products of low-level effort. So you got to step your game up. So you get stuck, you got to get yourself moving. And when you're down in the dumps, you're the only one that's going to be there. So you got to be your own hype man.
What happens is when you don't realize that you have all that you ever need to create the life that you want to live, you're missing out. You're standing at the base of that mountain thinking and hoping somebody's going to save you when all you got to do is take action. Theodore Roosevelt said, he said that the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena with their face marred in dust with sweat and blood. You got to get into the arena, claim your moment, take the opportunity to take your shot. Then when you're in that arena, think about this. I got to step my game up.
Eric's message was extremely powerful.
The power of overcoming is not just connected to you. You're rising because the people behind you are counting on you. Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
And when he was born, I went through a really, really challenging time. I was having kind of an identity crisis around the time, and I actually slipped back into substance use throughout that period. So when my wife was pregnant, you know, my wife and I are best friends, man. We hang out, we go on trips together. Like we're cool. Like I love just hanging out with her. Well, when, you know, she was pregnant, like, you know how that goes. Like they're, especially the last few months, they're not much fun.
No. They're a little uptight.
Yeah, not a whole lot of fun. Like, so, you know, I was seeking other things. You know, I started drinking too much, started dabbling, like smoking weed again and doing all those things, right? Well, I also was like really obsessed in the business around that time, like over obsessed, manic to a point of mania. And we ended up having a really hard couple of months in the business right after Jackson was born. And I can remember the day that he was born having this immense guilt because, you know, I expected when your child's born, like the sky's open and these angels come down and you transform and they're like, you're a man now. And you like have all this bursting love. And I'm just kind of like, what the hell do I do with this screaming baby? Like, you know, if this kid pees on me one more time, I might throw him out of the window. Like, I'm not sure right now, you know? And I just remember thinking like, what is this? And I went through this really dark insomnia spell through that because it was like a combination of the business, combination of substance use, and a combination of me not sleeping. You know, I was already not sleeping very much, and you know how that happens once you have a kid.
Right.
I went 42 days basically with extreme insomnia. Like I went to the ER. I went to like, I remember walking a mile down the road to a fire station at 4 a.m. thinking that my heart was an AFib because I would start to fall asleep and then my heart would just jump out of my chest and this anxiety would take me over. It was this spiritual like identity thing that I was almost like transforming, man. It was so painful. Because I didn't know what I didn't know if I could do it. And I thought like everything I had built was about to crumble down the moment my son was born. And dude, that was like one of the greatest periods of my life for me because it taught me how important it is to place your focus on the right things. Since that's happened, dude, we'll have problems in the business. And I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm going to go play peekaboo with my son. Like, it doesn't matter.
It'll work it out, right?
It doesn't
I'll
matter.
control what I can control and keep it moving.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. You know, what does matter is he's healthy. Like, he's healthy, she's healthy. Like, and I think had I not gone through that, I wouldn't have this perspective. And it wasn't for, and I don't know about you, I'd like to know your experience, 6 months. 6 months when he started like really getting more aware and talking, like my whole heart just exploded. I'm like, oh, I see what this is now.
It's a lot better. Man, it was a shocker when my wife, so, you know, we had gotten into it one night, man. And I'll never forget, I worked nights. I was at a grocery store, and I worked at what was it, Toys R Us afterwards, right? And
Wow.
so this night, this one particular night we had got into it, I got hit with a telephone, Nintendo, and I got hit with a clock phone. It just kept flying at me, man. And I'm like, look, I didn't call her dad to come get her. And so she's like, look, I'm going to the doctor. I'm like, okay, cool. Ain't nothing wrong with you, but you're crazy, right?
Yep.
So she come back the next day. She goes, well, I had this pregnancy test and here we go. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Are you sure
Wow.
that's right? But immediately, man, something kicked into me and it's like, okay, you're going to be a father now. How are you going to take care of 3 people, right?
Yep.
And so that I had to step my game up a little bit more there. And I start trying to look at opportunities to change things for us. And then when he was born, oh my gosh, man, reality set in because now I actually got him here.
Yeah.
What do I do next? And, the one thing I told him was that he never had to worry about another man taking care of him. I'm his dad. I got him. I'm always going to be here. But I had to look at something else, man. And if it wasn't for my brother joining the Navy, I'd have never jumped from the Army Reserve to the Navy. And that was the best thing for us because then I could be able to take care of them. So I thought. But eventually the Navy, I'm sorry, the things kicked in and got better. But it's a challenge because after my son and then between my 2 daughters, everybody's 16 months apart. So
Oh, wow.
every time you get to a point where you're like used to this one, hey, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
You're like, oh gosh, I got to figure out this income thing again.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's funny what that pressure does, right? I'm sure that catapulted you into figuring that shit out, right?
It did, man. It did. It makes you grow up.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the opportunities, tests, and challenges. That's what I call problems that I run into now. Because that's the key, right? To look at them as a certain opportunity, test, and challenge, because it's really changed my life looking at it like that. When you look at it as a problem, I would go to the liquor store, get my beer, sit down, and now I'm only going to drink 1 or 2, and that becomes 12-pack, right?
Yep. I can relate. I can relate. Yep.
And eventually you're sitting there drinking long enough, it becomes an argument. Something's happening. So,
Yeah.
but I've learned through that time frame, man, that there's a father that I want to be. And it is not the one that wants to be, that's playing short. It's not the one that wants to be separated from my wife with them on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast. It's the one that wants to be in everybody's life and just building this family. So it's really changed the game for me.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. I love how you shared how your wife, got on you. I think that's a superpower, man. That's the key. Aaron and I always joke that the game in life's won in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you a funny story. So one of my good friends, John Romanello, he used to train Gary Vee before Jordan Syatt was Gary Vee's trainer.
Okay.
And he was training Gary Vee one morning. And John also wrote a New York Times bestseller called Engineering the Alpha. And at the time, he was trying to get the book deal. And so it was a Tuesday night. Harping House, one of the biggest publishers in the world, called him, or his friend called him, who was with Harping House. Hey, John, they're at the bar. He's in New York City. You got to come down. They want to meet with you. Yeah. And so it's like a Tuesday at like 9 p.m. And he's actually engaged to this girl at the time. And he tells her, hey, I got to go meet Harping House, right? This might be my shot. Yeah. She throws a fit. Big argument breaks out. Like, we were supposed to hang out tonight. You're just going to leave 9 p.m. What are you talking about? So of course he goes anyways. Well, he's telling Gary Vee about this the next day. And Gary stops him and he goes, look, John, guys like me and you, we can only date 2 types of chicks, a cheerleader or a fullback. A cheerleader would have gotten up, ironed your shirt, packed you a lunch, wished you good luck. Yeah. A fullback would have grabbed her jacket and went with you. She's like, if you're with anybody else, she's going to get ran over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like guys who are driven, they either need a cheerleader or a fullback. Like when I met Erin, I kind of went in this lull period where I ended up quitting my job and I wanted to go all in on entrepreneurship, start this online business. And she was already doing really well, dude. Her business was doing like $500,000 a year, online coaching, super profitable. And like, she's like, listen, I got us for a few months while you figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, cool. I'm going to just kind of chill for a little bit. I didn't descriptively say that, but it's how I was acting. So it was like a Tuesday afternoon and I'm taking a nap at like 1 p.m. Right. And her business was also kind of declining and, things were getting a little bit tighter. And she wakes me up. She's like, hey, dude, are you not stressed about money at all?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, evidently not. I'm napping and it's Tuesday at like 1 o'clock. She's like, listen, you've got about 2 weeks to figure this out or we're done. And dude, I don't think I've napped ever since. And then one more time after that, when we were dating maybe a month into, or maybe it was a few months, we were just having a conversation about kids. It was actually
Yeah.
in bed one night having like pillow talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think I want kids. I'm pretty sure it's like not for me.
Yeah.
She looks over and she goes, well, that's cool. We'll just date a couple months and then we'll just go on our own way. That was it. Just like, damn. So the next day I was like, I thought about it and I think I'm open to kids. Like no woman's ever just like challenged me like that. I'm like, I see what's going on here,
Yeah. That's what I tell my wife all the time. If you'd have been somebody that would go, that would always go, okay, yes, whatever you want to do. Yes, that's fine. Yes, sir. I said we would have never stayed together long.
Nope.
I like the
Nope.
feistiness.
100%, man. 100%. Yeah. Guys like me and you, like, been with a lot of girls who just do everything you say. And like, it's like,
Last long.
Yeah.
So here we are, man. So you've made this shift. You've gone through, you said opioid abuse. You talked about the challenges that you face in your head, that mental quicksand you've had to overcome. And you talk about the experiences that you had with being sales and managers and being in the room with executives. And now you've decided that you're going all out on this entrepreneurship. And here you are now. How did you get to this man right here?
Yeah, man, that is a great question. I think the answer to that is that I still don't feel like I'm the man that I need to be. Like I'm hard on myself, and I'm sure you are too. Like we're usually our own worst critic, right?
Yeah.
Nothing I do is ever good enough. Like any little missed beat, I sit there and judge myself for it at the end of the day. And in some ways, that's probably why I've been able to create a certain amount of character.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that can also be self-defeating. But to really answer your question, man, I think it has to do with like feeling pain. I think people who end up developing a lot of character, it's directly proportionate to the amount of pain that they've experienced and how they respond to that pain. And then I think through pain, you're able to create focus. Through stress, you're able to create that response. And I think because I've experienced so much pain, I've learned how to just get hyper focused. And I really think that the proportion of outcome to anything that you do is directly proportionate to the amount of focus and intensity you can place on that thing.
Yeah.
And man, I think just on my life, I've just been angry, and certain times just pissed.
Right.
And that's also allowed me to like create the focus that I need, and I kind of know how to turn it on now.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does that lead to you? Because man, you're helping a lot of people. How did it lead to helping other people?
Dude, honestly, my biggest fear in life is letting people down.
Okay.
Just letting people down, like saying I'm going to do something and it not happening. Or like I wake up in the middle of the night, like, oh, did I respond to that Slack message to that client? Like, oh God, like, and it's probably at a deficit, but I care so much about being reliable, like just being useful. And like, and now that I'm at this point in our business where we have, almost 400 active clients, we have a team of like almost 30. And like, I'm going to let some people down, so I've had to learn how to deal with that.
Can't be everything to everybody. I got you.
Yeah. But dude, I think that's kind of where that comes from. I think fear can drive us, pain can drive us.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point right now in my life, to be totally transparent, where I'm trying to figure out how to be pulled more by vision, more by mission than driven by pain.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, man, I think if you're just consistently pushed by pain, you end up driving yourself into a wall.
You burn yourself out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many people have you really helped change your life? Because you're helping gym owners and people who are aspiring to be gym owners or to do something different, change their lives.
Yeah, man. Well, in the fitness business that Erin and I owned, between our two companies, we'd worked with, well, she owned the company first, and then I created my own. We combined them and we grew that company to like, I think at one point we were doing like $140,000 a month, and we had like 500 active clients, total fitness clients. We had about 3,500 over the years.
Got you.
Now, not all of them got the result that we promised, right? Some people don't do the thing, and sometimes we mess up. But we had pretty high success rates with IFCA. We've helped over 3,200 coaches now. Either that's start their online businesses, grow it from wherever they are to where they want to go. We've worked with some gym owners. Our main focus really is personal trainers, B, online coaches who maybe don't have a personal training background, but like they're health and fitness experts, and they learn how to create a unique offer, a system to be able to help people remotely. So we kind of license the product, the delivery for them, help them with their marketing systems, their sales. And that's a fun thing for me, because I truly think that entrepreneurship is one of the most powerful vehicles for personal development. It truly is. And like, I'm all like, it's great to see people make money, but I'm like, what it does for them, for their character. And then what that does for their families. What that does for their clients. I love thinking about the the impact and the recurring effect. So our mission is essentially, by helping online health and fitness coaches shatter their limiting beliefs and income ceilings, we're going to create a ripple effect that transforms the lives over 10 million people, because one coach might help 300 people that they then change their family's lineage, because that shit is ingrained.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
It is so ingrained. And so if we can just change those little tweaks, and then little Jimmy sees his mom, change her health, he has a whole different path in his life.
Exactly. Yeah, man. I like that, man. I'm big on connecting. And so when you start talking about connection, I look at it, life is a puzzle, man, that we get. And we don't have any pieces. We don't know how many pieces it's going to take to put together this vision. And we don't have a pretty pattern, picture, or design. We just making connections to build what we need to build. And I think what you just used right there, that was it, three people help 300. And I think that's huge, man, because our puzzle becomes infinite, and it just keeps growing. And where you are right now, man, you've got a huge community of followers that are not just following you, but they're actually creating their own wealth as well. What's probably one of the best stories you've had out of this whole journey?
Man, it's funny you asked that. Last night we had our culture call, which is essentially our whole team comes on once a month, and we do core value exercises. We do division updates, ththings like that. And that was actually the question that was posed on that call, which was, who's the most impactful student that you've experienced and worked with? And you share their story. So mine is a guy, Corey, who actually works for us now. He was one of our early students in our program, and he's from my local community. He's from Appalachia, Western Ohio, or Eastern Ohio. His whole family's coal miners, and that's the background. That's where I come from, man. The hollers of Kentucky. My uncle was a coal miner. His uncle was a coal miner. My grandpa, all of them.
Okay.
So he was supposed to be a coal miner.
The generation cycle.
Yeah, man. Yeah. He was supposed to be a coal miner, and he moved to Columbus to become a surgical tech, worked his ass off, ended up getting this medical career that was kind of a dead end job. Then he ended up personal training, found us around COVID. Because gym shut down. And dude, this guy, with online health and fitness coaching, you're at a disadvantage if you're a dude, B, not super jacked and you don't stand out in a lot of ways. C, you come from a background like that, the limiting beliefs, the things that are self-conscious. And one thing that Corey did one time, he doesn't have any front teeth because they got all kicked in through football when he was younger, and he didn't have, his family couldn't afford dental care. So he has all these fake front teeth, and he's like, I'm really self-conscious about it. I'm like, listen, bro, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna show up on social media tomorrow with none of your teeth in.
There we go.
And you're just gonna smile. I'm like, listen, man, the person who has nothing to hide is the strongest one in the room.
There it is.
So he did that, and he's like, bro, that got me 4 clients. I'm like, see? And so since then, he's just been a snowball effect of his own self-worth, his beliefs, his confidence. Now he's one of our highest paid people on our team.
That's cool. So is he the guy? I think I listened to Erin interviewed him, and he talked about how you challenged him. He was hoping to get a scholarship, but you challenged him to do to really step out of his comfort zone. Is that the guy?
That was a different guy, but
okay.
Yeah, Corey's one of our recent podcasts. He was on here pretty recently.
Okay.
He's a good dude, man. And yeah, that's a story that always stands out to me, because I just love people who outkick their coverage,
Yeah, I like that. Outkick their coverage. Yeah. It's true, man. If you look at this momentum shifting thing, man, from the sports perspective, man, you see it in boxing a lot. I love boxing, and I see it in that a lot, man. Somebody who's up against the ropes, but they just keep fighting, and then you see everything shift, and now the opponent's like, I don't know what to do. And now the opponent's like, oh my God, I'm getting beat down here. That's the game changer, man. And that's what this is all about. So I love that. Where do you see this going, man? Because like you said, you say you're not done yet. You're still working on yourself. Where do you see this going? What's the big picture?
We have our vision and mission mapped out for this company. Our goal is to get to 20 million this year, then 30, then I'd like to eventually exit. Whether or not that happens, I don't really care.
Yeah.
See, I don't care much about those things in general. But the paradigm is in order to really lead a company, you need to have a vision. People need to know where you're going, right?
Yeah.
Personally, for me, man, I just love being useful, love showing up. I love just literally just doing the work every day, putting on my freaking coveralls and just doing the work. And but for me, man, in the future, I want to get to a point where financially we have enough structure that I can not have to work if I don't want. I know I will anyways. I want to coach my kids' sports. I want to build a farm. I want to do things that are more physical, because I grew up doing physical labor. So me personally, sitting behind a computer 10 hours a day, I'm getting kind of sick of it. But
Yeah.
you know, personally, man, I'd like to be a father first and foremost. But the
Yeah.
business, you know, we got our own goals with that.
Yeah, yeah. I can see you now with your farm putting on your own sporting events, fitness events. I love
Yeah,
that.
man. Yeah, we want to do some nonprofit stuff like that. We actually want to go into like lower income communities and do like essentially workshops
Yeah,
for like mindset, entrepreneurship, fitness, and all those things. That's a big part of next year we're going to try to set up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I like it, man. So what's been the biggest challenge for you?
Oh man, biggest challenge. Working with other people, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay.
Fortunately, I have Erin, who's really great with people. I'm really good with like building and systems and you know those kind of things. Man, I've had to learn how to really lead that, and it's still a challenge because like I'm you know I'm the kind of person that like here's what to do, go do it. And
Yeah.
when people don't do it, I'm like, well, what's wrong with you? And
Right,
that's just
right.
not how you lead, right? You know, from being a military background and you being a leader yourself, like
Yeah.
people need to understand why your mission fits within their mission,
Yeah.
why your priorities also align with their priorities. They need to
Yeah.
understand the why, the purpose, the how, and they need to be reminded, you know?
Yeah.
So that's something I'm really trying to dial in. And that's definitely been the biggest challenge for me because that's also going to parlay into being a husband, a father, and everything else, right? I
Yeah.
understand that everything's connected, like you say.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the biggest change for me when I changed my job from directing aircraft to now working into an office space. I had to change how I led, how I talk to people because we're out
Yeah.
there on the hangar deck, or we go, hey man, meet me back here and we'll discuss it in this little locker room space back
Yeah.
here. But in the office space, you couldn't do that. You had to learn how to motivate people. You had to understand how they're thinking, how they're viewing things, and then you had to identify when they're scared. So it was a
That's a good
difficult
point.
challenge. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a good point. Yeah. Usually people are resistant. People are resistant to change, right? Like
Yeah.
adapting anything that's different. And you can't just tell them like, you got to change because that's the way it is. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah, right.
it's not going to go over well.
Yeah, because I said it, that's why it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really
Yeah.
wish things worked that way, but you know,
Oh, wow. So what you got coming up next, man?
man, honestly, right now we've got some events coming up, things like that. Like, dude, I'm just trying to stay super diligent, calm, not get emotionally reactive, stressed. Like my biggest goal this year is to be a more calm business leader, you know,
Yeah.
and just like in husband and everything in general. And that's why, again, why I love business is because you're forced as you're building a business to show up. And like, if you don't show up effectively as a leader,
Yeah.
things do not work.
Right.
And so it's almost like a lens or a filter to then how you end up showing up in your family and everything else, right? Because if
Right.
you don't show up as a right leader in your family too, things will not work.
True.
So
So
you know,
true.
I don't really know what's next. I just like living day by day, man. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I got you. So if we attend one of your events, what can we expect?
Yeah, the events, dude. Honestly, we actually just made a pivot not too long ago where our events are only a function for our clients and like internal community. See, dude, we
Okay.
used to run these big events with like 700 people, and
Yeah.
we did one not this past December, the year before that, and it was burning me out. I didn't want to do it anymore. But
Gotcha.
then we did our big pitch on stage, and our operations guy came up and was like, "Yo, we just did $1 million from stage." So the very next thing I did is I went out on stage like, "All right, guys, next event, Scottsdale, same place next year." And then we started planning it this year, and we were like
Yeah.
6 months out, and I was like, I don't want to do this, man. It's just not
Yeah.
fun. We scaled
Right.
it back. Like, so our events, man, they're more focused on community fulfillment, like really giving our clients the most value possible rather
Yeah.
than how do we use this as like a revenue generating vehicle? Because
Yeah.
dude, that's their point. Like you shouldn't do things just because the dollars make sense, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. And I think what I've seen from all of your clients and those who have started the businesses, they love you guys, man. They love what you're doing, and that's why they keep coming back. So you're definitely doing something right when it comes to your building your community.
Yeah, man. Well, the more people who feel that way, you can also expect almost an equal number of people who don't, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you can't do anything great without
Right,
causing some people to hate you. And that's
right.
something that I've had to really learn with too, you know?
Yeah, and those who like I said, I've learned that there's 5 people that you can't reach, and so those 5 people, some of them just don't want to hear it from you. Some
Yeah.
of them aren't ready, and some of them don't want to acknowledge that they need a change. And there are a couple other ones that you're not built for. You're not built to create to help them. And then, like you said, just some of them just don't want to do the work, man. So,
Yeah.
hey, you just keep pushing, man, and doing your thing. How can the audience connect with you?
Yeah, man. Best way to connect with me, you can reach out to me on IG. It's Jordan Duggar _, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll link that in the show notes. Dude, connect with me. I got a podcast too. So if you are a fitness professional, of course, it's very niche. It's very specific to fitness-based businesses, health and fitness-based businesses. But, sometimes I go on like different diatribes and rambles over there about things unrelated. But yeah, man, connect with IG, and I'd love to stay connected to you too, man. If there's ever anything I can do for you, please say the word.
Okay, cool. Likewise, man. I love to connect. I was looking forward to this interview, man. And hey, you didn't fall short of anything spectacular, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Hey, Jordan Duggan, man, you're definitely a momentum shifter, man. And thank you for the opportunity to join the show, man. And I look forward to, like I said, keeping connected and moving forward. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today's episode of The Momentum Shift, the show designed to get you inspired, get you moving so you can live in the impossible. I'm telling you, don't fall victim to the mind's greatest trick, where it's teaching you or tricking you to believe that your greatness does not exist, because it does. And when you start stepping into what Jordan talked about today, creating that mindset that drives you for a purpose, your game changes. So until next time, I'm Erin Collier, the Mayor of Motivation, and this is Jordan Duggan. Thank you for joining us. Take care.
Are you ready to experience unparalleled comfort and warmth like never before? Introducing Sensory Product Design's flagship line of cozy blankets, the ultimate solution for warming your extremities and wrapping yourself in a whole body hug of coziness. Sensory Product Design's adult-sized cozy throzies and child-sized cozy cozies blankets are crafted from the highest quality microfiber fleece, ensuring unmatched warmth and comfort. But what sets Cozy Z's apart is its unique ability to settle your nervous system, providing a soothing sensation similar to an adult swaddle. Whether you're unwinding after a long day at work or trying to calm down your hyperactive child, Cozy Z's blankets work wonders in helping you find peace and tranquility. As proud sponsors of the Momentum Shift podcast and radio show, we invite you to visit CozyZ.com. That's CozyZZ.com now, and use the discount code Momentum25 to enjoy a fantastic 25% off your purchase today. Experience the magic of Cozy Z's blankets from Sensory Product Design and transform your moments of stress into moments of bliss. Don't wait. Embrace the warmth and comfort of Cozy Z's today.
Thank you for joining The Momentum Shift, a show bringing you interviews and stories of incredible people to help you get inspired, get moving, and get results to ultimately create the life-changing momentum shift that will improve your life. Join host Eric Collier, the Mayor of Motivation and mental quicksand expert, every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern for The Momentum Shift, the show and change you've been looking for.